Hello everyone. I just want to show you how to cut out part of an image and combine it with another image in GIMP. There are a number of tutorials online that show you how to do this, but I've watched a few and I actually don't like the technique they use, so I'm going to show you how I would recommend doing it. So I've got two images. Here's my background image, and here's the image I'd like to add to it. I'd like to add this little hamster in a hot air balloon so that he's flying through this landscape scene. So the first step is going to be to select the part of the image that I want to keep so that I can get rid of the rest of the image. There are a number of ways you can do this. There's a number of selection tools up here. You can use the free select tool to go around and essentially trace the part that you want to keep. In this particular case, because it's got this nice blue background and because there isn't any blue in the part of the image that I want to keep, I can use this tool. It's called the Select by Color tool. It allows you to select specific colors within the image. Now, when you're using this tool, you'll need to set the threshold. This tells GIMP exactly how different colors need to be in order to be considered different colors. So if I had this turned way down and I was on the right layer and I selected part of the image, it would select just this part, just this blue, and it would not select the rest of this blue, even though it's very similar, but it's not similar enough. Likewise, if I had this turned way up and I selected part of the image, it would select not only the blue, but a lot of the rest of the image as well. Now, I found for this image, I was playing with it earlier, I found that 30 was a good place to start. Depending on what you're selecting, what your image looks like, this may change, but 30 might be a good place to start. So I can make a selection here. I actually want to be in normal mode to start. So I make a selection here, and then if I want to add more to my selection, then I should switch to additive mode here so that I can add more to that selection. And then we've got just this little bit up here. We'll select that, and that's pretty good. That's a good start. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect at this point, but the better you do making a selection now, the easier it will be to finish it up later. So we've got our image selected, but actually what we've got selected is the blue background. So in order to make it our image that's selected, we'll want to go over here to Select and hit Invert. So now our hamster is selected instead of our background. Now, when I was making my selection, I had the Feather Edges option selected with 3 pixels. That means that instead of having a hard edge between what is selected and what is not selected, you have a little bit of a gradient, so it sort of fades out. There are 3 pixels wide that will be progressively fading out from the selection to the background. Now, because I don't want to have any of this blue show up as part of that feathered area, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to shrink my selection by, say, 3 pixels. So now my selection is a little bit snugger, but it should prevent any of the blue from making it into the final selection. Now, in most of the tutorials I've seen, at this point they tell you to delete everything that is not part of your selection. That is not how I would recommend doing it. I would actually recommend going over to your layer, right-clicking, and clicking on Add Layer Mask. If you've got selected what you want to keep, then what you're going to do is you're going to check Selection, and you can hit Add. Now, let me just make a selection to get rid of that, make it clearer. Now you've got your image cut out. So, going back over here, we can switch over to the image. You've now got 2 things that you can edit on this layer. You've got the image and the mask. So we're going to want to have the image selected, and we're going to go to the Scale tool, click on our image. The background will come back temporarily. That's okay. That's just while we're scaling here. We'll want to make sure that we've got our dimensions locked together, and we'll just shrink it to a more appropriate size for the background image. And that looks pretty good. When we've got it the size we want, we hit scale and GIMP will do the processing for us. And there it is. We can use our move tool to position it where we want in the frame. And that looks pretty good. Now that you've got this set up, you can fine tune it. And the extent to which you want to do this is totally up to you. Depends on how good you want it to look. But let's zoom in and take a look. Now you can see that even though most of the blue got removed, there are still some spots where it doesn't quite look right. Now, to deal with this, what we're going to do is we're going to continue to modify our selection. This is why I recommend using a mask instead of actually deleting. So instead of hitting the eraser tool like you might think, we're actually going to use the pen tool. We're going to want to make the pen tool black, and we're going to want to have our layer mask selected. And we can simply draw over, we'll probably want it pretty small, 2 pixels. We can simply draw over what we don't want visible. So we can go around, we can clean up some of this blue and make it look a little bit better. Now the advantage of doing it this way instead of using the eraser tool is if we were to accidentally, say, delete a bunch of stuff we don't want. Let me bump up the tool size so you can see it a little better. Delete a bunch of stuff we don't want. Oops. Sure, we could hit undo. We could undo those things. But let's say we deleted something we didn't mean to, and then we went around and we were continuing to clean up our image. And then after we've done a few things here and here, then we notice, oh no, I didn't mean to delete that. Now, if we were using the eraser, we'd have to undo everything we did since we made that mistake. But if we're only using a layer mask, we can simply switch to white and we can just draw it right back in. Because what's happening is the image has not actually been deleted. The entire image is still present. We can go up here and we can disable the layer mask and we can see that our entire image is still there. But when we turn the layer mask on, it hides the part we don't want to see. So then once we've got everything exactly the way we want it, we can go and we can merge the layer down, at which point the layer mask is applied and the background of this image is deleted and the 2 images are combined into one. So that is how I would recommend combining 2 images in GIMP.